Okay, you asked for it, we are delivering. Welcome to part 2 of our awesome but bloody risky luxury cars. Now, if you haven't seen part 1, go and check out that video because it sets up all of the ground rules for this video. But basically, we're talking about cars that have that like unquantifiable, intangible kind of like delicious kind of luxurious feel and vibe. But in saying that, under the acres of leather and beautifully sculpted bodywork often hides some pretty average mechanicals and a very long list of highly potential issues. And succeeding at nailing both ends of that spectrum is the BMW 7 Series. Long living in the shadow of the S-Class, the 7 Series has generally offered a slightly more athletic alternative to the big Mercedes land yacht. But over BMW's 7 generations of 7 Series, look, some are better than others and some are probably best avoided completely. But look, we get it. Being able to buy a 7 Series BMW that would have set its original owner back well over $200,000 when brand new for well under $10,000 these days does seem like the bargain of the century. But trust us, it's not. For example, the E65 was a huge departure from the previous E38, and while it drove beautifully and nailed all of the luxury stuff when brand new, many BMW faithful felt that it was actually a bit underwhelming. Now, the LCI update improved things, but these days, both iterations of the E65 are just plagued with dramas and neither live up to expectations. 6-cylinder variants, they do tend to offer better reliability than the V8s, but even then, there are plenty of horror stories out there of E65s, no matter how many cylinders, being stuck in workshops for weeks, suffering a whole bunch of issues. The major problem here seems to be the sheer complexity hiding beneath the controversial bodywork. We're talking loads of electronics and technology from around 20 years ago. And let me ask you this, how's a 20-year-old laptop or digital camera or mobile phone faring these days? Yeah, terribly, right? Well, if the thought of using a 20-year-old laptop seems a bit dicey, imagine what it would be like if those 2 decades also included constant heat, vibrations, and possibly moisture. Well, that's what you're dealing with when it comes to the electronics in the E65. But the problem for the 7 Series as a whole, is that according to consumer reports and owners groups, it doesn't seem like things have improved with each successive generation, especially if the required maintenance hasn't been carried out. Apparently, there are plenty of more recent generation 7 Series owners out there that have never had an issue, most likely because they've been maintaining their cars accordingly. But the issue is, if you're buying used, you are running the risk that services and maintenance has been skipped or costs have been cut, and that can end in disaster. Plus, the cost of parts and labor quickly add up. That's why these things depreciate at such a terrifying rate. Honestly, guys, you're just better off buying something else. But maybe just not a Mercedes-Benz S-Class unless it's from before 1997. Marketed and commonly regarded as being the industry standard, if not the pinnacle of luxury cars, the S-Class comes with a hell of a reputation. And when brand spanking new and covered by a full factory warranty, look, they more than live up to the expectations. And as we found out when reviewing just 2 of the 7 generations, the S-Class exudes every quality that you'd expect from a car in this class. The ride and drive quality, the incredible interior accommodation, the seemingly effortless approach to motoring just convinces you that the S-Class surely represents the pinnacle of automotive engineering. And prior to 1997, yeah, it did. But things changed, didn't they? See, Mercedes management took a bit of a different approach to the manufacturing of the 4th generation W220. See, this was the period of the brand's Daimler Chrysler years, and to even the most passionate Mercedes faithful, it was a shit show, thanks to the brand prioritizing profits and shareholder dividends over build quality and vehicle longevity. Even when brand new, the W220 was plagued with quality and reliability issues, and these days, things have only become worse. Airmatic suspension failures, transmission problems, vast electrical issues, brake system problems, air conditioning and heater problems, rust issues, engine oil leaks, fuel system problems, power steering pump failures. Even areas where the S-Class should excel, like interior trim and materials, they all wear far too easily. And the risk with buying a used S-Class of any of the more recent generations, meaning the W221, W222, and eventually the W223, is that many of these issues and even more can still and often do occur. Then you've got to take into account that the S-Class loses resale value incredibly quickly, and the cost of parts and repairs often ask a huge premium. And this all results in the big Merc rapidly becoming a financial burden, and in time, leads to long-term ownership costs that are generally prohibitive for many buyers. Guys, it is critical to remember the old saying here, there is nothing more expensive than a cheap Mercedes-Benz. And speaking of spending way too much money on things that end up being a financial burden, guys, don't get trapped into spending way too much money on bad car finance. Instead, hit the driver link down there. That way you can customize your perfect finance package. Driver will find you the best possible rates from over 30 different lenders. The whole thing is done easily online, so there's no need to talk to a stranger about your personal finances, and you can get pre-approval in just minutes. Plus, if you do all of that via that link, we're going to give you a free $150 fuel voucher. Plus, while we're giving stuff away, how about 15% off and free express shipping when it comes to your next wiper blades? Simply hit the WIPERTECH link down there to get yourself some of the best wipers we've ever used. They're easy to order online, they're shipped to your door, they're super easy to fit, and they wipe perfectly. But back to our awesome but risky luxury cars, and this next one, it's a personal favorite of mine. It's the Audi A8. Arguably the underdog when it comes to the big three German offerings in this segment, the A8 provides pretty much everything the S-Class and 7 Series deliver, but adds a large dose of Audi sophistication. Understated looks, all the tech and features you'd ever need, sporty yet supremely comfortable driving experience. The A8, no matter what generation, is an awesome luxury car when it works. Now look, we're not saying that every generation of the A8 is a disaster at all. The more recent the model and the lower the kilometers, hopefully the better the car will be. However, like every car on this list, while you might think that you're buying some bespoke precision-built mechanical package, chances are this luxury car shares the vast majority of its engine, transmission, suspension and electrical components with lesser models in the manufacturer's lineup. For example, when it comes to the A8 and specifically the 2009 to 2017 D4 generation, the most prevalent model on the used market features Audi's 3-litre turbo diesel engine. And in various different configurations, this is the very same power plant as found in various Audi A4s, A6s, Q7s, plus the Volkswagen Touareg and even the Volkswagen Amarok. Look, the A8, it might be very special, but how do you feel knowing that it has the same running gear as a dual cab ute? Anyway, this engine was technically sophisticated and it did draw admiration from journalists when new, but these days, often serious issues start to appear after as little as 100,000 kilometers. Timing chain tension issues that, if left unchecked, can result in catastrophic engine failures, injector issues which are generally expensive to resolve, fragile and deteriorating engine bay plastics, oil leaks and excessive oil consumption, endless electrical gremlins, DPF issues, turbo and intercooler complications, EGRs clog and eventually fail, excessive carbon builds up in the intakes, models fitted with air suspension can have expensive failures, models fitted with normal suspension and air suspension can have issues with bushings and control arms, transmissions can develop rough or delayed shifting, plus fixing these issues will generally ask a premium as parts and labour don't come cheap. Look, obviously fastidious maintenance can mitigate the vast majority of these issues, and plenty of owners have never and most likely will never have an issue with their A8. But if you're looking at buying a used one, do you know categorically that the A8 in question has had this level of care and attention paid to it? If not, sorry guys, it's way too much of a risk for us. And the same can be said for another Volkswagen, it's the Porsche Panamera. Now, if you'd like to see a YouTube car guy fall deeply in love with the Panamera, and then see his enthusiasm slowly deteriorate as he presents the list of common faults and issues, it's up here and down there somewhere. But to give you a quick overview and ignore some of life's realities for a moment, the Panamera is a truly spectacular car. No matter which of the generations or trim specs, they all offer an incredible experience. And with first generation models asking as little as $40,000, the big Porsche is an extremely appealing proposal, but it's these first generation cars that are the risk. No matter what engine, what spec, or what condition the car is in, reports show that even some of the most fastidiously well-maintained examples can attract eye-wateringly high repair bills when the worst occurs. But on the other hand, as we've seen in the comments section of our video, plenty of other owners have, with the right maintenance, never had an issue. Basically, do you like to gamble? Because that's what buying a used Panamera is. For some, the punt is totally worth the risk, and if you can financially handle some of the potentially huge repair bills, yeah, please buy one because it is an awesome car that needs to be on our roads. But if you're not one to take big financial risks, or if you're not exactly copious with excess funds, we'd be avoiding it at all costs. It's far too risky for the majority of us. Guys, if you need all the specific details on what goes wrong, check out the full review or jump on ReDriven.com and check out its free cheat sheet. It's going to answer all of your questions. Now guys, we've noticed that of everybody that watches our videos, it's only about a quarter of you that have subscribed. And if you have subscribed, thank you so much. Because of your support, ReDriven has become one of Australia's fastest growing automotive YouTube channels, and we cannot thank you enough. But to those of you that haven't subscribed, look guys, we promise you, by hitting that subscribe button and supporting us, it just allows us to make bigger and better car videos for you. And that's all we want to do. We just want to make the best possible car content for you. And with your support, it allows us to do that. Thank you so, so much. And now to our final awesome but risky luxury car. Although this one kind of breaks the rules a bit because it was never all that awesome to begin with. It's the Maserati Ghibli. Okay, now the Ghibli potentially asks the bigger question of why you want a luxury car in the first place, because this is a car that doesn't sell on its quality, or its driving experience, or its interior fit and finish, or its performance, or even its financial value, which is, funnily enough, all areas that it fails in. The Ghibli sells almost purely because it wears a Maserati badge, and that means it maybe attracts consumers that prioritize all of the bullshit that comes with a fancy brand name over any sort of substance. And look, if you're honest and genuine enough to own up to that, to say, yeah, I don't care that the car is shit, I just love the brand and that brings value to me, well, awesome, more power to you. But if you're buying a Ghibli to try to impress others and you're shopping for a used one because you don't have the financial means to buy something more expensive, well, you're potentially making a huge mistake. To say the Ghibli has received a mixed response is a massive understatement. Look, yes, it is a looker, but that's about where the good news ends. Owners have become infuriated with reliability issues and defective parts. Funnily enough, parts that are commonly shared with sibling and far cheaper Chrysler, Fiat and Dodge models. The build quality is often an absolute joke, with interiors seeming to self-destruct, through to genuine scandals like subframe welds fracturing and causing serious accidents. There was even a recall for a fuel line that could leak into the engine bay and cause a fire. Like, how did Maserati not catch this during the development of the car? You know how? It's because they've been cutting corners with this thing right from the start, and here's the proof. You know how cars have that little placard telling you what air pressure the tyres take? Well, when Maserati fitted the more recent Trofeo models with a new 21-inch tyre, they didn't bother to update the information on that placard, and that meant that owners of those cars were filling up the tyres to the wrong pressure, which led to excessive tyre wear. Well done, Maserati. Add to this the expensive maintenance costs. Apparently they can chew through brakes at an alarming rate. The list of common mechanical and electrical faults are terrifyingly long. Parts often ask a massive premium and can often take weeks to arrive from Europe. And the Ghibli depreciates like their values have driven off a cliff. Plus, for a four-door car that is aimed at the luxury market, the rear legroom is an absolute joke. They are outperformed by the majority of their competition, and they often fail to provide the same levels of comfort or sense of occasion that can be found in far more affordable vehicles. Actually, you know what? Go and drive a Ghibli, then drive a higher spec Mazda 6 of the same year model, and try to tell yourself that the Mazda doesn't outdo the Maserati in every department short of brand appeal. If you'd still buy the Maserati, I just don't get it. And this brings us to our next installment, which is going to be awesome but risky luxury SUVs. Guys, what should make the list? Let us know in the comments. See you next time. But basically, we're talking about cars that have that, like, you know, that unquantifiable, intangible kind of, and in various different configurations, this is the very same power plant as found in my brain. The A8 provides pretty much everything that the S-Class and